when a guard would stop and talk to you, you used to stand back and you would yell so people could hear what you were saying to that guard as they walked by or within the vicinity.
But he knew what a convict was going to do before they thought of it themselves. He'd just been around that long, and he was tough.
They'd find Sparky in about every conceivable place you could imagine, which we would, of course, dump.
They'd wait until everybody was locked up, and he would open his door and run down to cell 1 and get a bugler can full of Sparky and take it back to his cells.
She had a kind of a hypnotic power. There were a great many wild cats around the penitentiary, and most people couldn't get near them. But she would stand in the doorway of the cell house and say, "Kitty, kitty, kitty," and those cats would go to her.
Welcome back, folks, to Behind Gray Walls, a podcast about the men and women who worked, lived, and served time at the Idaho Penitentiary. I'm one of your hosts, Samuel, and I am not in the trenches today. I'm actually in the wilderness of Idaho. That's right, I'm reporting to you live from the Selam Endurance Ride up in the forests of Idaho, not far from the old settlement of Centerville. For fans of the show, you know Stool Pigeon Saturdays as the day when we interview experts, staff members, or tell the stories we aren't always able to fit into regular episodes. But today is going to be a little different. Instead of interviewing just one person, we're going to talk to many.
The race at times, as you know, is very painful. It can be painful and it can be frustrating and it can be problematic, and it's always such a huge feeling of endorphins when you finish, and you finish successfully and you overcame any odds that you had that day.
With the 100-mile races, those are the least common of the endurance, and for obvious reasons, they're the hardest to do.
Bonding with a large animal, developing that trust, that
Sure.
bond. Some of us call it an addiction, that we have because of the love for the horse. And I don't know, it's in my blood.
It's a little unorthodox, but we wanted to take you out of the studio and bring you into the open country. Out here you can smell the fresh pine, hear the burbling of Grimes Creek, and feel the wind blow through your hair. So friends, if you're ready, grab your boots, throw in your hats, and saddle up, because for this Stool Pigeon Saturday, we're going to ride some horses. But first, maybe it's best if we address the most obvious question. What is endurance riding?
It's like running a marathon on horseback.
The voice you're hearing right now belongs to Tani. Together we stood in a soft splattering of rain, a welcome relief from the hot summer day. And as I listened to Tani, a lifelong endurance rider, describe what draws people to this extreme sport.
Feels powerful to be connected to such a large animal that could be dangerous if they wanted to be.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But, most of them choose to be docile and they like humans too. It's just that connection with the animal and the feeling of power underneath you. You get to go see different places. I kind of call it like trail riding at speed. You get to see more country because you're covering more ground. You build this community of friends, people that you ride with that you've known for, I've known some of these people for 38 years.
Tani has plenty of championships under her belt, but when pressed about her wins, she remained humble, always crediting her success to her horse.
Been blessed with some very talented horses over the years. This is JV Jericho.
Okay.
He's an 11-year-old purebred Arabian.
He's beautiful.
Thank you. He was kind of a rescue. He was hard to handle, and we get along. He trusts me. It took a while, but he trusts me now, and this will be his third 100-mile ride this year. We did the Tevis, the hardest 100-mile ride in the world in July.
Wow.
And finished.
How did he do?
He did great. 105 teams started.
Wow.
43 finished.
Wow.
We got 22nd place.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I imagine it takes a lot of time to get a horse up to the stamina to do.
Yes,
that
it is a
distance.
commitment. It's a commitment. But I love riding, and the sport gives me an excuse to ride.
Now that we know what endurance riding is, let's go pay a visit to Carolyn to find out what this race has to do with Selam the horse.
The ride was started for the name of old Selam the horse at the penitentiary. And we did it to help promote, the riding and people to have fun. Mm-hmm. And it's been, we did it. I've done it I'm 86 years old. So I've done it since the beginning of the ride.
Wow.
Which was 1979 when we started the ride. And originally we had a small group of us get together to form the club. And then when we formed the club, we decided to do the old Selam ride.
This race, which has gone on for more than 4 decades, would have not been possible without the efforts of Carolyn and many others who have put in countless hours into organizing the event.
I was the president the first year, yeah. And then I think I was the ride manager the next year.
So you put a lot of time and energy into
I have. I did the ride manager for several years, putting it on. And it was tough. Back then, we did most of the trail marking on horseback or motorcycle. I used a motorcycle.
But that's not to say the ride has always gone smoothly.
I had one time when I raced in and my saddle turned with me when the horse turned in.
Oh.
And I went off.
Oh.
Yeah, that was at Rocky Canyon.
Were you okay?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was fine.
Overall, Carolyn expressed gratitude for her time riding and for her years representing Selam.
Yep. Well, it's just an honor to honor that horse. He was stolen once by Bob Meeks, and he was caught the next day.
Yeah.
And then Sam, a couple weeks later, stole the horse.
Yeah.
And they said they never caught him, but Karen was telling me that they did eventually find the horse.
100 miles is a difficult feat for any animal, which is why the race requires individuals to advocate on behalf of the horse.
So I've worked as a veterinarian since 2002, and I actually have worked at this endurance ride here at Old Selam since 2004 off and on.
You're listening to Robert, one of the veterinarians on site providing care to the horses. As we talk, he shares some of the challenges he's faced over so many years working at events like this.
So the purpose of the veterinarian and endurance ride is we're here to monitor the safety and welfare of the horse. So, we sometimes, most of the time, we try to think that we're working in concert with the rider for them to do the best thing for their horse. And in some cases, we have to be the advocate for the horse when the rider wants to go a little faster than they should be. So we're here just to maintain safety for the horses and provide treatments as needed. I mean, being honest, a lot of the challenge is the riders and the horse owners. Sometimes they are focused on the competition and competing and doing well and kind of lose sight of the best interest of their horse. So that's one of the more challenging things. And some horses, even horses that are ridden within their means have off days and, can run into metabolic issues. One of the issues that you face is if a horse needs aggressive treatment with IV fluids, it's kind of hard to do in a setting like this, and you have to be pretty creative. I've hung bags of fluids from this tree quite a few times. So.
To help incentivize riders to prioritize the health of their horse, organizers created several unique awards.
In addition to the winner of the race, you have an award called Best Condition, and that takes in account the ride time compared to the fastest rider, the rider weight, so weight of the rider, and all the tack compared to the heaviest rider, and then the veterinary score. We score lameness, soundness, we score hydration parameters, wounds, all kinds of different things, and we'll come up with a numerical score. You combine all those, and they're all weighted differently, and that's the best condition horse. A lot of rides, in addition to a best condition award, will give a high vet score. And this is a 3-day ride, or also known as a pioneer ride in endurance. And for the horses that complete all 3 days, there's no official award for a 3-day best condition or anything like that. So a lot of rides will do like a 3-day high vet score, and that has kind of been called the getaway horse. In this case, we're talking about Old Selam, a horse that was at the penitentiary. If you're going to pick a horse that you're going to try and escape the prison on, you want the one that looks the best. So that's where that kind of came from, and I think that got started somewhere around 2012, 2013, and that's like I said, we call it the Getaway Horse Award for this particular ride because Old Selam was a getaway horse, at least twice.
Yeah, for sure.
I really think, it's the equivalent for the horse of, being a marathon runner, but, the riders are also almost in good a shape most of the time as a marathon runner. And so that in itself, I think, draws most people as the most fascinating thing about endurance. But to me, it's the bond that these riders form with the horses after doing all these miles. It's not just the miles at the competition, it's the hours and hours and hours of training and getting in shape and, doing their little loops at home and hauling places and doing hill work and putting in all the hours in preparation to get to where they can do this.
Outside of the Getaway Horse Awards, there are different types of rides, including CTR. Let's stop for a moment with Luann to get the full rundown. What is the difference between endurance horse riding and competitive trail riding?
So in endurance horse riding, when I first got into it, you have to be in the top 10 or 16 in order to get your points and with your horse. And my horse is registered half Arabian, so I was trying to get points for her for the Arabian part because she's half Arabian. So we're not really that strong competitively to do endurance. So I talked to Lucy Hess, who was out here, and we talked about CTRs. And CTRs is a paced race, so the ride manager tells you the pace that you can ride. And we did really well at that because we could set our pace and ride it. We didn't have to be in first place or last place. We could be anywhere we wanted in the race, do the 25 miles, and it was all on the horse. Everything was based on the horse.
CTR requires riders to be aware of many details, from pacing to the horse's recovery.
A lot of people, most of us have a clock, a watch or something. We pace ourselves. And so they tell you how many miles an hour that you go. You can range anywhere from 4.5 miles to 8 miles an hour. So the ride manager tells you how fast a pace that you can go. And so from there, you have to calculate. When you first loop, you have to see how many miles. If it's 15, then you have to calculate how long it's going to take you to do that 15 miles and get into camp. So then you have to calculate if you want to do 6 miles an hour or 6.5, 7. So you can take the time and walk, trot, whatever it takes to get yourself into camp for the first loop. And then after that, you have like a 35-minute hold in camp. Then when you go back out for your second loop, then you got to kind of look at yourself and see where you're at and how much time you have left to get there. So it's kind of a pace race, and it's kind of, you need to know the condition of your horse and how fast she can go and what she can handle, so that when you get to the finish line, her heart rate is not too high. It's right where it should be. For like 44 is the optimum to be, so you don't have any points put against you for having too high a heartbeat.
Throughout the day, I'm struck by the horses themselves. These aren't your typical farm animals. They're massive, lean, rippling with muscle, coming in many breeds and colors. I noticed many chestnuts and black Arabians. Curious, I asked Luann and my guide today, Karen, if Arabian horses are considered the preferred breed. This is what they told me.
It's not really the breed, it's the mindset of the horse. Because if your horse has a mindset to go, that's what you want.
Yeah.
So, everybody always says Arabians, yes, I understand that, but it's the mindset of the horse. I've seen some horses out here that do really nice, Appaloosas, Morgans, I'm trying to think what else we got out here. But
I could interject if you want to
sure.
start. Any horse, almost any breed, can do endurance or CTR. Yeah. And yes, it is partly the will of the horse and that it wants to go. But I think it's also the rider, too. And Arabians and part Arabians are kind of pre-adapted. Their lungs, their narrow body, their musculature is all kind of pre-adapted for distance. But so I've always thought that for someone to do well with another breed, they have to be a better horseman or a horsewoman. Because the Arabians kind of just do it on their own. And
they're basically desert horses, most of them, and they seem to handle the heat well.
One of the people Karen insisted I meet was Christoph, the winner of the race that day. At 72 years old, he is tanned, fit, and shows no sign of slowing down anytime soon. How far did you ride yesterday?
Yesterday was a 50 mile.
How far today?
Today was a 50 mile.
And how much are you going to ride tomorrow?
Tomorrow is going to be 100 mile.
That's a lot of riding in 3 days.
Yeah.
How old are you?
73. No, I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. 72.
Well, that is an impressive amount of time in the saddle for 72. How long have you been competing in endurance riding?
Oh, probably about 40 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
40 years, yeah.
What have you learned over the years about endurance riding?
Most intricate equestrian sport there is, where everything has to fit together just 100%. Every little piece counts.
Sure.
It's like attention to the detail. Hardest part is keeping it all together and got all your ducks in a row. Focus on the task at any given time and don't take any shortcuts. That's probably the hardest one. And focus. You got to focus during the whole time. You cannot let your mind wander. So that's maybe toughest part, little chit-chat on the trail, all that. You're going to pay the price for that. You got to be focused. You got to switch leads. You got to watch your horse being touched with the horse the whole time.
Naturally, I wanted to know what he enjoyed most about this ride.
When you're in sync, when everything clicks when you have, the most enjoyable is probably if you have a real strong horse at the end of the ride, after 50 or 100, when you still have a strong horse that is still springy.
Sure.
And still has energy left. That's probably the most enjoyable part. Yeah. Besides, you see great country, but you could see great country by hiking or biking or doing other things.
I was surprised to learn the riders often run alongside their horses to give them a rest, sometimes running over 20 miles on foot during a 100-mile race.
You used to run a lot.
Right.
Do you still do that?
Yes and no. It just depends on the terrain. This terrain here is not inducive doing a lot of running.
Sure.
Because the hills are not long enough up and downhill. It only makes sense to run when you help the horse out. If it takes time to get on, off, horse gets maybe upset or they don't like it, then it might be counterproductive. It got to make sense that you have a long uphill, long steep uphill, long steep downhill. Then, you go by, does it help the horse if I'm off? If I'm on a short section off, that doesn't help the horse. It's probably just the opposite. Then I have to get on and off, and it doesn't do much good.
So if you're doing like a steep uphill, sometimes you get off and just run along next to it.
Right. Yeah.
So you'd have to have pretty good fitness to be able to
Right.
doing running on top of riding in the same day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because of the distance, the ride begins at 5 in the morning, forcing riders to ride in the dark. Christoph explains the importance of using red lights since they don't compromise the horse's eyesight.
That's why it's better to have red light, but it's important to have lights because horses don't see too well at night. They see everything fuzzy. They see better, there's more light, but they don't see it clearly. So holes, roots, they don't see. It's kind of a little washy-washy. Their vision shifts to movement at night. They're focused on movement. tigers, cougars, because that's survival for them.
Sure.
And so that's why it's important, I think, for people to have lights, because there's so many accidents happening when people ride without lights. Horses just stumble, fall down, hitting fences and cattle guards. You know, I've seen riders refusing to put lights on, then run into a cattle guard. Well, how much sense does that make? You know, that's just stupid. Because not all cattle guards are marked with lights, so that happens, and then barbed wire. You don't see the barbed wire. The horse doesn't see the barbed wire. Bingo! I'm running into barbed wire because people don't have lights. So anyway, I'm a strong advocate for safety reasons on lights.
His advice for riders is simple but powerful. It's all about the food.
Nutrition is the most important thing. I think from nutrition, the start in the beginning. If the horse doesn't have good nutrition, and if he doesn't have good motility in the guts, then lameness can come in. So very often lameness is a secondary effect of bad metabolics or compromised metabolics. Heart rate up or something. Very often that's the case. I mean, sometimes they just take bad steps. That can happen too, or step in a hole, or get overloaded, or tweak something. That's but very often also lameness is a secondary side effect of bad metabolics or compromised metabolics.
During a ride, how much do you have to feed your horse?
Oh, as much as you can.
So are you stopping to feed then?
I do today. I stopped probably 6-7 times when there was regret, and they just need to take a couple bites here and there just to keep the guts going.
Get the energy back up.
The weakest part of a horse is the intestinal tract. That's the weakest part. They have very complicated intestines. They can flip if they don't have electrolytes, if everything is not balanced. They can have impaction, they can have all kind of things. So the weakest part of the horse is not the legs, it's not the back, it's the intestines. That's the one we have to really pay close attention to.
How much water do they have to drink during a race?
As much as possible.
And if anyone would know, it's Christoph. He's put in his time on the trail.
47 times.
Wow.
And how many wins, though? You've
72.
Definitely got more wins than Dave.
Yeah, over 500.
500 wins.
Wow. Now, before we go any farther, some of you are new to the show and might be wondering, who in the world is Selam? And why is he so significant to the history of our prison? To answer that question, let's head back to the old Idaho Penitentiary.
Out of all the escapes in the prison's history, no one expected 2 of them to be accomplished by a horse.
This is Mariah Villafane, our education specialist here at the Idaho Penitentiary. In the many hours she has spent giving tours, lectures, and presentations, she's told the story of Selam countless times, even at our annual Dennis the Cat Day. Here is her summary of Selam's story.
In the year 1874, the miracle of life occurred when a little chestnut foal made his way into the world. Little did those present know what an extraordinary life this horse would lead. Selam the horse grew to be about 15 hands high. His owner, Nelson Davis, realized that Selam was a very fast horse and decided to race him in Alturas County, Idaho. He became a prized horse, winning many races. After retiring from the racing world, Selam set off to a new adventure at the Idaho State Penitentiary. At the penitentiary, Selam was beloved and trusted by prisoners and staff alike. Bob Meeks trusted Selam so much that he took off with him in a prison escape on Christmas Eve of 1901. Bob quoted,
"I knew old Selam, and if anybody could give me freedom, it was he.
On December 30th, Samuel Bruner escaped with Selam before deserting him for another horse. For 6 long months, Selam wandered in search of his home. Finally, on June 3rd, 1902, Selam was wandering around Celebration Park when he came upon some people. These locals contacted the prison, and Selam was returned home. The whole prison celebrated the return of their long-lost friend.
The state authorities to spare no expense in running the fellow down.
My true name is Samuel Otis Bruner.
Keep your hands in the air at the peril of your life.
Liberty is sweet for a man isolated and dead to the world. And when the feeling comes over you, even with death staring you in the face, a lost soul is willing to take the big chase.
If you're interested in hearing the full version, check out our Behind the Grey Walls holiday special next week, where we will feature not only Selam, but also the stories of Margaret Barney, who served time for stealing presents under Christmas trees, and Samuel Bruner's legendary holiday escape on Selam himself.
Dennis the Cat Day is held each Memorial Day weekend on Saturday. We're marking the 6th year of the event in 2026. According to his resident-written obituary, he was born around Memorial Day 1952 and passed away on Memorial Day 1968.
Selam is just one of many animals celebrated at Dennis the Cat Day here at the penitentiary. This event was started by our very own J.C. Brain, our visitor service coordinator.
Now, who was Dennis the Cat? He was a black and white tuxedo cat who lived at the penitentiary for 16 years. And he served as more of a service animal or comfort animal than a mouser, like other cats that were at the site. And the entirety of the site mourned his passing through the placement of a memorial marker and a funeral service. So we remember his legacy and what he represented both to the residents then and to the visitors now through a special event targeting families and all ages, with local pet supply vendors, games and activities, fundraising for the Idaho Humane Society and the Simply Cats organization, and special storytelling featuring tales of the other well-known and some not as well-known animals who lived and worked at the site, including Selam.
Along with Dennis merchandise, Selam remains one of the most popular figures in our gift shop.
Because visitors, just like the residents who knew these animals, hold reverence for the stories, we offer them the opportunity to take special reminders home with them from our store. We currently offer a plush toy version of Selam with his story on the attached tag, a keychain doll, a lapel pin, and more. Animal lovers, history buffs, and fans of the special place horses have in the story of the American West appreciate being able to take Selam home with them.
Well, that should have been plenty of time for you to grab some food and water, saddle back up, and let's hit the trail.
That was my first competitive trail ride when I was 11.
Yeah, mine too, when I was 11.
So that would have been 1973, I guess. Yeah. I do it, and most of all, you have to have fun, and the feeling of accomplishment and something to enjoy with my horses.
Mm-hmm. Well, it kind of gets in your blood.
The first voice you heard was Suzanne, and the second was Suzanne as well. Despite just getting off the trail, both Suzannes were gracious enough to sit down and talk with me immediately after completing the 50-mile course. So I found myself perched on a bundle of hay under the shade of their trailer, listening to them and to Karen share some of the challenges facing their sport.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing, it seems like as we are all getting older and not riding or dying or whatever, there's not all the kids to come up, and so the sport is getting a lot less. I think there's 4,000 in our national organization, and there used to be 15,000.
Wow.
Yep, it's way small. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just it's expensive. It's expensive to have horses.
Yeah.
And it's expensive to do this kind of stuff. And
in many areas, it's harder to find places to ride.
It is.
Because of the urbanization and...
Yeah, and the kids are different now,
Yeah.
They have mountain bikes.
Yeah. Or they have iPhones or cell phones or video games. And, I remember when I was a kid, after breakfast, my parents didn't see me none of us, all day long. We'd show up for supper.
Yeah.
And we were just out running around in the woods and, and that's the way we did things back then. And you just don't see much of that anymore. But I mean, right now I
yeah.
sound just like my grandmother,
No,
and I
no.
thought that I would never sound like that. But
Susan H., or Susie as her friends call her, was raised in Montana by a mother who was an endurance rider and a father who was a marathon runner. She herself has ridden more than 105 100-mile races. As I listened, she wowed me with the stories of her adventures. Her horse wasn't shy about chiming in with his own opinions.
That's why I ride, is to have fun. And thank you. Thankfully, I didn't get too much on me. Oh, he's going to aim. Did you get something on your nose, Annie? Huh? He says it itches, Mom. Do you want me to do anything? Huh? No, he just says, let me see if you have a pellet. Food. Yeah. You're a silly horse.
But in the end, it's all about the horses.
My horses I've had I got this one when he was a baby. He was a yearling. And he's 17 now.
Wow.
And he's a half Arabian, half thoroughbred, as well as this one. And this one was a rescue horse. I rescued him last fall. He had been in a very abused situation. And I really liked him. He had a really kind eye, and I thought that maybe I could help him be a good citizen. And so far, he's doing really well.
Did that relationship take a little bit of patience on your end?
Oh, a lot. Still does. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. You've been able to kind of help him adjust to a new, better life.
Yeah, yeah. And, he seems to appreciate it. And the horses do. I mean, all endurance riders spend an inordinate amount of time trying to figure out what to do best for our horses. Feeding them, training them, taking care of them. It's never ending, all the things that you think about, trying to take care of these horses that are very, very athletic horses. And, my husband laughs and he says first of all, I spend way more attention to my horses than I do him. That's a given. But it costs way more to feed my horses than it does us.
Sure.
And I tend to have a rule, and I usually retire my horses by the time they're 20. I just feel like, they've worked so hard for me all their life. And then they get to be in the pasture, and I call them, they get to be wild horses. Yeah. But, that's just what I do. And I usually have several, so it's not like I only have one horse and all that. But, yeah.
Riding, like any sport, is not without its dangers. Suzanne knows all too well the risks of the ride.
Well, I was riding a young horse, and I went through a stream on a conditioning ride, and it wasn't too far from our house. My husband had just had major back surgery. He was in a wheelchair, and his brother, who was helping take care of him, had just left. And I went out for a ride, and I crossed this creek that wasn't too far from our house, and an electric fence was down in the creek that I didn't know about, and he put his nose down to drink, and he got shocked.
Oh.
And he leaped, and I went out, fell in the stream bed, and I broke 10 ribs, 7 of them in multiple places, lacerated my liver, broke 2 of the facets off my spine, collapsed lung, and I crawled home, and I had my cell phone with me, and as soon as I got to the hill and I knew I had cell coverage, and I see my husband sitting on the porch because he knew I should have been home in his wheelchair, wondering where I was. And I called my neighbor, who happened to be an emergency room doctor, and he was home. So he and his wife came and got me and took me to the hospital, and I spent 10 days in ICU in the hospital. And then there was an endurance ride, the Bighorn 100, that was 5 weeks after my injury. And that was 2020, a COVID year, and there weren't many rides, and I was determined I was going to go, and I thought, well, I'll go see my doctors a week before the ride, and I'm sure they'll give me the okay. Well, I went to see my doctors, and they didn't really give me the okay. But and they said, well, you'll be okay unless you go off again. If you go off again, your liver isn't healed. And then I thought to myself, how many times have I ridden a horse? How many times have I gone off? And what's the percentage of going off? And I thought, I have a way higher percentage getting in a car wreck between my house. So I went and did the 100-mile ride.
Did you say 5 weeks?
5 weeks.
Wow. Wow. Was it
It was a little painful. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I rode this horse. And he actually won the ride.
Wow.
Yeah. There was 100 entries, and yeah, it was just one of those things where all the pieces fell together.
Was old and dying, and during the period before and after he died, I was grieving, and I started riding the horse farther and farther, throwing my attention from the dog to the horse. And the farther I rode out, the more endurance riders I would encounter, and so they'd say, "Come ride with us," and so that's how I started in '85.
For the final interview of the day, I sat down with Karen, who'd been guiding me around and introducing me to riders. I wanted to know what her first ride at the penitentiary was like.
It was good. It was, I think that was the year that we did camp on Rocky Canyon Road, and we did ride by the penitentiary. So in those first years when we were coming out of Boise, we really were kind of tracing the Meeks route. Not totally.
But pretty close.
Close. It was my little horse's first year, and I think that was the year that someone sabotaged the trail. Wow. Tore down some ribbons. So a lot of people got lost. Wow. And we found ourselves among the leaders when we were really middle of the pack type horse and rider. But we finished, and everything went well.
Well, it's hard to imagine horse riders near busy Warm Springs Avenue today. What's perhaps even stranger is picturing them camped out in what is now the Botanical Gardens.
It was a 25 and a 50. We did keep it in Boise. Then the Rocky Canyon camp got too small. And so we did have it in the old penitentiary where the outlaw field is now. A couple of years. One of the years was a day ride. One of the years was a night ride. Started at sunset. And I did ride that night ride, and it was fun. I stayed behind a palomino, so I could see a light horse. I could follow along, and it was an interesting ride. Then we started moving camp because, of course, the botanical gardens were expanding. We started changing places. We went to the Douglas Ranch. We for a few years we camped at the confluence of Clear Creek and Grimes Creek. Had that ride and rode all the way up to Bogus Basin and back down. And then it was 1996, I remember. It was the first year we had it at this camp. This camp had been used for other rides in other years, but this was the first year, and it's been here ever since 1996. We used to perpetuate the myth that we were still looking for old Selam and Sam Bruner, but we came to find out, of course, we knew they would both be dead, but we learned from you guys that Selam was found, and Bruner never was, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, where do you think Bruner went?
We heard he went down to Cow Creek, I guess, in Nevada, and then from there, who knows? Kind of like Claude Dallas for a while, maybe.
Yeah.
I've had both bad and good. I've ridden, I think, 6 different horses on this ride many times. I haven't missed many years. This is one of the years I've missed. I can remember one time they were logging, and my horse was starting to get tired. It was a 75-mile ride. My horse was starting to get tired, and I was kind of having to urge him along. And then all of a sudden, these trees came falling off the mountain, and he saw it, and he went, "I am out of here," and he took off and was, I think we won the ride.
Whoa. Give you an extra kick in that step.
Yep. I went on a tour of the old penitentiary one day, and I learned some things that I didn't know, and I think I found out that some of the things that we were saying about the whole thing weren't quite right. And so I started digging into it a little more, and one of the guys from the penitentiary before you started helping me find some, and then you helped. So I think we're kind of finally getting rid of the myths and getting into the facts. And I think the facts are more interesting than the myths.
Now, some of you may be wondering why I'm at the Selam Endurance Ride, or maybe why it took me so long to attend. For that, we have to go back a year. In 2024, on September 20th, I spent the night at Silver City, Idaho. I was looking for inspiration for my episode on John Springer and decided the best place to find it was at the Idaho Hotel, a building that's been standing since 1863 and a place where Sheriff Springer stayed himself on multiple occasions. By late September, the air outside was already turning chilly and the leaves were beginning to glow yellow. But when I woke that morning, I found the fire in the saloon warm and the breakfast a delight. Before long, the room filled with guests there for a tour hosted by the Waihi Historical Society. Among them was Karen. Karen came up to me and started talking to me about the race, the Selam Endurance Ride. The conversation inspired me not only to check it out for myself, but also to share it with you in this episode today.
Well, I think Mary O'Malley introduced us and said you were from the old penitentiary. And being a scientist and being really concerned about facts, I've been kind of on a quest to set things right, and you're helping with that.
I asked Karen what lessons she's learned from riding horses.
Pay attention to your horse. Be kind to the other riders. Keep your rig in good shape.
Sure.
Because you got to travel around and it's got to get back into backcountry a lot.
And then I asked the question I find myself thinking about every time I ride. What can horses teach us about history?
I just finished reading a book about the horse and how the horse shaped human history.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the beginning, all the wars that happened were won or lost because of horses.
Yeah.
And it's only in the last few years that horses have been kind of pushed aside to be on the fringe. Because right up until the 1900s, they made the world run, whether it was in farming, transportation, war, any of the things. So horses have everything to do with history. Until recently, running cattle still required horses.
Of course, I owe a big thank you to Karen and every other rider who took the time to talk and be interviewed for the podcast. By the end of the day, I knew I'd learned a lot and we'd created a bit of an oral time capsule for the 2025 race.
The motto of the endurance sport is to finish is to win. And in every race, there's a first place winner, but there's also people who just want to finish in the time frame with a good, sound, and healthy horse. And I guess that's a lot like marathon running. Not everybody who goes on a marathon run tries to be in first place.
Yeah.
So that is a very important part of the sport, and I've done both. I've finished first and I've finished last, and I've finished in the middle of the pack a lot.
If you even think you might like riding, connect with people that go places that there's a horse show or an endurance ride going on, because the horse community can be very welcoming, and people will teach you, people will help you through all this.
The reason I do it and the reason all of us do it is because it's a challenge and it's fun, and I always laugh and I say the reason that I do a lot of the rides is because it feels so good when you're done.
Yeah.
I've heard this quote attributed to many different people, including Winston Churchill, Ronald Reagan, several people. But the best thing for the insides of a person is the outside of a horse. And it really is therapeutic when things are going, when you're having troubles in your life for whatever reason, get on that horse and sometimes those troubles just go away.
Well, friends, today you got a little sneak peek into the Selam Endurance Ride. A horse ride that's taken place for more than 4 decades, commemorating one of the most famous escapes in the history of the Idaho Penitentiary. This ride not only offers breathtaking views of Idaho, but also blends history and horsemanship into a truly unique event. It looks like we're about out of time today, so I hope you have a wonderful night, and that each one of you gets to ride off into the sunset. And remember, do your own number, and do your own time.
you enjoyed Behind Gray Walls, please rate, review, and subscribe so others can find our podcast. If you're interested in more Old Idaho Penitentiary information and to see mugshots of the inmates featured in this episode, follow the Old Idaho Penitentiary on Instagram and Facebook. If you want to learn more about the Idaho State Historical Society and its other sites, follow ID State Historical Society on Instagram or visit history.idaho.gov. If you have a question or comment for the hosts, please email us at behindgraywalls@gmail.com.